One thing I talk a lot about is the whole concept of I'm not unrealistic, I'm optimistic. And that's a big, big thing that I love to share with people because it's really about being able to name the hard truth, right? Embrace the suck, not push yourself to move out of it too fast. You're not pretending it's not there, but you're choosing hope anyway.
Hi, I'm Leslie Silverman, and I thrive on deep, honest conversations with entrepreneurs about how we show up as the truest version of ourselves, both personally and professionally. Because when we let our light shine, we give others permission to do the same. This is a category of one. Danette Shaifer is a multi-passionate leader focused on empowering others to step fully into their power while elevating their presence and aligning with their purpose. As someone who spent over 20 years in the corporate world before launching her own business, she knows firsthand how important a strong support system is to flourish. That's why she spends her time facilitating impactful workshops, coaching offerings, and creating communities where women and some aligned fellas can show up as they are. No masks, no armor necessary. Here's my conversation with Danette. Danette, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Leslie. It's been a while, so it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So, as you know, this conversation circling around the topic of being a category of one is so rooted in showing up as the truest version of ourselves, both personally and professionally. And when we do that, we give others permission to do the same. And you are someone who I just really admire for doing exactly that. But what really interested me in having a conversation with you that we shared with others is what you and I went through recently together, which was a why discovery facilitation. So, will you explain what your certification is and what that is? And then we can start by chatting a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So it's all based in Simon Sinek's research and his why discovery process. I was certified through the Optimism Company, which is his company, to do this type of work with my clients. And it is my favorite kind of work to do. It truly is. You experienced the story sharing piece of this as well as how we got to your why statement and then your hows. And so the process is I sit down with my client, and it doesn't mean that they don't know who they are or they're feeling lost necessarily. Maybe they're really just wanting to find that common thread. And that's what we do through the storytelling. So we sit down, we spend about an hour where my client just talks a little bit about all the things, right? So I will guide them through their stories. Sometimes they have a story that they're just itching to tell. They want to tell it right away. And sometimes they would rather me guide them into that, right? I've had both where they're like, I don't know, give me a question. And I'll say, okay, what's an early memory that you have of dear childhood when you were in school, right? Because that's a great place to start. And that starts bringing all the things out. I'll ask more questions, deeper questions, and I may pivot our discussion and ask about what's another story that you have, or tell me more about this. It's personal, it's professional, it's early life, midlife, current life, the ups and downs, all arounds. And you experienced where there were even some things, right, where you were like, holy shit, I hadn't thought about that in forever, right? And all of a sudden something comes to light. And then after the storytelling piece of the why discovery is done and I have all the information I feel like I can use now, then my client gets a little bit of a break and I'm going to do an analysis where I'm going to start finding those themes. What are the themes in what you said? What are some of those words that kept popping up over and over again? Maybe your face lit up every time you mentioned some type of thing happening in your life, or maybe the opposite. Maybe you're like, ah, and I'm finding the themes. And then at the end of it, we co-create your why statement and your hows. The why statement is your belief, your purpose, the thing that gets you out of bed every morning. It's the same no matter what room you're in, and you've had it all along. It's just putting words to it. So that's a high level of what that why discovery process is, and it's so fun, and it's so meaningful.
It was so fun, and you did just a great job explaining it, and it's true, it's true. I had some realizations, like, in real time while we were sitting there, and I was trying to tap into some of these impactful moments from my life through the course of my life, and you were a fresh set of eyes to find common threads and themes that I didn't even recognize, and I'm someone who is very introspective, so that was really refreshing and fun. And then you're right, the why statement, the why and the how for me were very reaffirming. They were very clarifying and really, really supportive as a place to filter decisions through. And it was at a really critical time, right as I was manifesting this podcast and what I wanted it to be and what I wanted it to look like.
Mm.
And those why and how statements were just really supportive in how I took the leap to actually start this. And part of my intro and opening actually reflects really similar language to what we came up with in the why. So, what I say at the top of the show is one piece of it is when we let our light shine, we give others permission to do the same. And part of my why is having deep, meaningful conversations, is helping other people to let their light shine. And so it gave me permission to pull in that language and to own it as my own. It was an incredible experience. I really, really recommend it to people.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and I love to hear it. I had a very similar situation when I got my why statement, and I tried for months. I was studying it, I read the books, I watched all the videos, I was doing the work. And I was overthinking it, and then I had my own experience with a Y discovery coach taking me through it, and it hit me right in the heart bones when we found it. It was like, "Yes, that's it. That's the words. Those are the things. That's my why, those are my hows." And I'll have to say the fact that you and other clients and myself, once we find that, we're able to use that lens, but also it's been I think permission's a good word. Permission for me to show up just as I am in every single room that I'm in, and I know exactly why I'm there. So,
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. So, another thing about you that I'd love to reflect and share with our listeners is you have a really cool trajectory that you've taken in your life and your career. But I met
Mhm,
you at this pivotal point when you had left at the height of your corporate career and made a really conscious choice to jump off the
mhm.
proverbial cliff and go into entrepreneurship. And then I've watched you be so grounded and connected to your own intuition as you have let yourself be fluid with that and say, I thought this is what I wanted, but maybe I want it to look different, or maybe I want to let go of this piece that I thought I would love and I don't. And I really admire that. And I think it's an amazing quality for entrepreneurs. Will you share with us a little bit of how you check in with yourself and feel confident to make those decisions, even if it's not what you're quote unquote supposed to do?
Mm, yes, supposed to do, right? That's a big part of it. And you are 100% right. I had got the salary plus some that I had always wanted. I had a great team, 13 years in this one firm. I was at the height of my corporate space and and I walked away from it. And I did it very intentionally and I wasn't sad about it at all. I was actually really excited about it. Because I knew that there was just something inside that told me that this was the right path. And there's a lot of lessons I've learned over the past 3 plus years. And I've learned so much about myself. And I will have to say, the way we met was through the Polka Dot Powerhouse group, the Women's Connection group. And I have many other groups that I have been able to find as well, right, during this process that have exposed me to different types of entrepreneurs because we all, right, have our different tools and our different approaches. And so I was so hungry and so new that I was just soaking it all in. I think that was where I really began. I had a very clear vision about what I wanted my business to be, but, you know, coming into a sales role as an entrepreneur and stripping away the corporate constructs that you tend to pick up after 20 years of being in the corporate world was a process for me. So the fact that you said, grounded and this and that and the other, it's kind of like a duck, right? On the water, they might be doing this, but underneath they're like,
That's a great analogy. Yes.
I mean, that's how I felt so often. And still every once in a while, that might pop in when things get a little tricky. But what I will say is that when I truly stopped shooting on myself and stopped comparing myself and stopped putting myself into boxes I didn't need to be in, that's when I started really having fun and started really being able to show up for my clients as I needed to show up for myself as well. So that's really what I would say has been the biggest thing is I've dug deep. I've gone in on to all the little corners and the dark places and the where the light is too. And it's been a real transformational journey because being an entrepreneur is I believe it's one of the biggest journeys of self-discovery that a person could really step into.
Oh, yeah. It sure is. I mean, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that it's not about me. Meaning, if a client doesn't respond the way I anticipate, or if they say no, or if they not every I'm getting better and better at being aligned in who I work with and
Mm,
having a thick skin, not taking it personally. But
yeah.
share with us a little bit about who you work with, who your ideal clients are, and how you help them.
Yeah, so my clients are women that are women leaders, right? And quite a few of them are in the corporate space and they're looking for their voice, right? Maybe they're tired of feeling like they have to show up with this mask on in order to do the things they need to do and be successful. It's also the entrepreneur, right? The women entrepreneurs out there that, again, are looking to dig a bit deeper and do some self discovery and really set some goals that help them to align with their why and their hows so that they can make some very clear decisions. Let their no's be their no's and their yeses be their yeses, right? Because they are so grounded in who they are and what they are here to do. And that's what I love doing about the work with it's called Empower with the HER collective, right? So that's a few different ways that I'm working with these women is really helping them to identify their inner voice, their inner critic, and to be able to have frameworks and tools to spot it and shut that shit down, right? Flip the
Right.
script, reframe, and really dwell in possibilities instead of problems. So that's one of the things I love to work with my clients on. And then, of course, you talked about the why discovery. We go through that. That's part of. I have both standalone, but it's also part of my actual coaching program and then I use a tool that what will help individuals identify their motives as that's like, how do you show up when things are going well? What motivates you? What gets you lit up? And also what triggers you, right? What are the type of people, personalities, and work that really dulls that light or puts you in a place where you're like, ugh, that doesn't feel authentic to me. But then knowing those things, you can make a decision on how you show up. You're like, yep, I'm in conflict. How do I want how do I want to respond to
Yeah.
it? So it's
Yes.
all about building awareness. That's helping women step into their power and really be intentional with their presence and then know and align their decisions in their life with their purpose. That's it.
I mean, it sounds, and you're like, and that's it. But that is so robust and so complex. And maybe I would imagine people might first enter into this thinking that it's going to impact them either as a leader, as a business owner with clients, or professionally. And then it is such a part of who they are as a human being and how they just show up in their personal relationships too. Because, right, how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I have often found when I get triggered by something, specifically with a client, when I can sit and say to myself, it's just business. Why did that trigger me? Why did that person's reaction or how they approached this? Why did that trigger me? We can go back in time to childhood or even last year or our failed marriages or whatever to say, oh, that wasn't at all about that client saying XYZ. It was about these 12 things. So the realizations. And then I imagine there's also through that realization tools on how to integrate.
Absolutely. Integration is the biggest part, right? Whenever we learn a new tool or a new skill or have some sort of new piece of information, um, it's all about retention and integration. So that's where the coaching comes into play, and we really begin to align those insights into reality, both personally and professionally. Absolutely. And and by the way, lived experience, past experience, yes, absolutely, they will tie into the things that trigger us and set us off for sure, 100%. But sometimes it's just because somebody's so different than we are that they approach their communication styles and the work styles are just not our styles, right? So just being able to appreciate and realize that everybody's different and that's okay. But the awareness that, okay, this person approaches things a little bit different than I do can help you assume positive intent and not just think, oh, they're doing that just to get under my skin. Because generally they're not, they're just being them.
Right, right. So your curriculum that you've created for your coaching practice,
Mhm.
is that you have all these different tools and you compile those based on the individual, or do you do the same process with everyone? It's my understanding that this is something that you've created uniquely your own from your
Mhm.
decades of experience.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? I have a toolbox and there's some core tools that I firmly believe everybody should experience. So those are going to be for everyone, right? And then it depends on what are their goals? What are we talking about this day? What's the thing that we are focused on this month, this week, right? And that's where I go into my toolbox and I'm like, okay, well, this will be good for this, right? And that's the fun part about it. And that's honestly, all these tools are the tools that I've collected along the way as part of my own self discovery, right? Being able to step into my own power, be intentional with my own presence, and really align with my own purpose. So it's a collection of all these things that I have found to be really useful for me, and or others have said these are great tools. You should have them available. So I'm a collector. I like all the things. So it's a little bit of everything in there. And you just got to pull the right tool out at the right time for the right person, depending on what's going on.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I just think is so incredible about you that I've just learned from and loved being privy to is how you so unapologetically have shared about your origin story and your journey. And bad things happen. People have challenges in their childhood, in their life throughout different periods. And we have choices. Do we curl up in a ball? Do we overcome it? Do we learn from it? Do we let it make us resilient? And I know that you have incorporated some of those through lines in some of your speaking engagements. As much as you feel comfortable to share, you don't have to go deep into necessarily what those experiences were, but how have they helped frame how you look at everything in the world?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And honestly, this October, sharing one-on-one and maybe small group settings, but this October was a pivotal time for me and my origin story, and being able to tie that into those lessons learned because I was a main stage speaker at the Polka Dot Powerhouse celebration, their annual conference, with 400 of my closest friends, right? And I'm up there talking about some very vulnerable things that I had not in a public setting talked about. And for me, I think that's the 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 thing that we have to remember is that our stories matter, right? Our stories matter, and people will feel connected to different stories. And when we are able to own those stories, good, bad, or indifferent, then it becomes just a piece of the puzzle that makes you who you are today. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I definitely I had a pretty tough upbringing in the sense there were a lot of generational cycles that I had to break. I come from a small town, so everybody knows everybody. Um, and early on, I lost my father, my mom. She wasn't necessarily around. I was a young mother, right? And that makes you grow up. I was already growing up pretty fast, obviously. And then I had my daughter, and all of a sudden it was like, whoop, I'm an adult. And she was the best thing still, one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And what I will say is, as I've become more comfortable in owning my story and sharing my story, I've found deeper connection, but I've also been able to share the outcome, like you said, the resilience. And so one thing I talk a lot about is the whole concept of I'm not unrealistic, I'm optimistic. And that's a big thing that I love to share with people because it's really about being able to name the hard truth, right? Embrace the suck, not push yourself to move out of it too fast. You're not pretending it's not there, but you're choosing hope anyway, right?
Mm,
You
choosing
know
hope.
you're going to get to the other
And
side of that storm.
yeah.
So there's that glimmer. And so for me, that's the through line when it comes down to any of the challenges that we face. If we can really see and focus on what's going to happen on the other side of that, that's what's got me through some of my toughest times is being like, yep, mm, this is tough. This really sucks. I kind of feel like I will curl into a ball, but only for a minute,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And then we get
Yeah.
back up and we're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. And I don't know if you agree with this, but I think being a parent
Mm,
has, I'm not going to use the word forced, has encouraged me to make myself better and myself more resilient. Because, for example, when something hard happens, not only do I want to look at it through how I'm going to learn from it and be better, I always say, maybe this happened for me, not to me. What
mm,
glimmer of any lesson or self improvement or opportunity can I find in this seemingly on the surface negative thing? Maybe something positive is coming that I just don't see yet. But also, I feel like I'm constantly modeling for my daughters. I want to be that woman who is strong and resilient and who can, yes, we need to feel our feelings. And sometimes that means curling in the ball for like a day, not forever, right?
yeah.
Uh, One of my children had some bad news yesterday, and she said, today I'm going to feel sad and tomorrow I'm going to be solution based. I was like, that's my girl,
Right?
right? Like all the feelings, but then and I have met your daughter, and she is a very strong, resilient woman as well, and I guarantee she gets that from watching you.
No. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I will definitely agree with you that when you have especially as a young mom, she gave me purpose for sure, right? I already was kind of the one that knew I was the outcast because how they say, what is it? Black sheep, white sheep in a family. I'm like, oh, my family really didn't have black sheep. I think we had white sheep. Like the ones that weren't, you know,
You were all the black
all
sheep, and
wrapped up.
you were the
The one on the yeah, I was the outlier and that was, an interesting thing to see. Anyways, but yes, she totally did give me, early on just that I think it really was just an extra push. And I'll say for my ladies and fellas out there that say, "Hey, that's not for me. I'm not going that route." At some point, I will say I did figure out that while those things are all great, and yes, they do give me extra, they did have, because I have a son as well, giving me extra reason to role model and to do the things. But if we're not doing it for ourselves first and foremost, we're missing something. So it's a yes and. It's a yes and.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I think we share that I think a lot of people may benefit from hearing is now more than ever as entrepreneurs, we have the space and the freedom to evolve and
Ugh.
make our businesses look like whatever we want them to look like. My brand strategy business can look totally different than everyone else who does what I do. Your coaching business can look totally different because who's meant for us will find us, will listen, will hear. And I think it took me a long time to overcome that fear to stand apart and be different and let that not only be okay, but let that be a superpower. And you seem to have embraced that philosophy very naturally. Were there ever times that you didn't feel like that was so?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, I tried for, I would say, the first year, 2 years, to do what I thought I should do, right? Because I was coming from the corporate world. I'm like, "This is what I have done, okay. I don't wanna do these things anymore, but this is what I'm gonna do. This is who my client is." And I was very, like, um very intentional, and I did some really cool work, and I did love what I was doing at the time, and as I evolved and became more exposed to the different types of coaching that is out there and really begin to understand things that I loved about the work that I was doing, I also got really clear on the things that, well, they weren't lighting me up, right? And I got stuck for a minute. I really did. I kind of hit a wall. I kept forcing my path forward because I was like, oh, too late now. I'm already too deep in. I can't change. Stay the course, right? Because sometimes that's the advice that we're hearing out there is just be really good at one thing and just keep going and you got to trudge forward. And to me, as I learned more about the concept of feminine and masculine and all these different energies that we all have in us, I realized I had been living in the masculine energy for so long. It was just who I was. It was a survival technique initially, and then I lived in corporate, very male dominated industry, and it's just all I had known. And I think as I softened in and began to embrace that feminine energy a little bit more, I realized that that wasn't really where my passion lies. And once I took this whole concept of a pause, lots of people talk about a pause. It was a very intentional pause. I gave myself the time and space to figure out what I really wanted. And then things just started aligning like click, 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 right? It just, once you figure that out, I got excited again. My energy level grew, my excitement grew, and your vibe attracts your tribe. So the people that were meant to be my clients have, been attracted. Now I've got the right frequency to attract the clients that were meant to work with me. So yes, I definitely got stuck. I needed a minute. It took me a little while. It did. Um, and the power of the pause, that paradoxical pause, right? I got to go, go, go. If I stop, I'm not going to be relevant and I got to get more clients. I got to do this, but I know something's off, but I can't stop. But if I don't stop, if I don't pause, then I can't move forward, right? That
Yes.
hit that
Yes.
pause button. If you feel it, you know it, we know it. And sometimes we keep pushing. But man, the
The
power of the
pause
pause, I
is
highly
connected
recommend.
to what you said about the masculine and feminine. I
Yeah.
used to feel really guilty if I wasn't at my desk all the hours, all the time.
Mhm.
And then I came to this realization when I go for a walk in the middle of the day or a hike or meet a friend or whatever I'm doing that isn't work traditional,
Brain break.
that's when I get creative ideas. That's when the ideas flow. That's my version of the pause. When I stop the hustle to just listen, I download cool ideas. And then I think that
Mhm.
also really goes with the masculine and the feminine. I am the exact same way. I used to be so in my masculine, in the hustle, go, go. And I don't know if I think there's a lot of factors at play right now. I don't know if I'm older than you, but I don't know if it's like life stage, if it's like I'm in my wise woman era. I'm leaning more into intuition and feelings than spreadsheets and projections. I don't know the answers of what it's all going to look like. I'm just like following what feels good, trusting that that's going to get me where I need to go and using my inner compass instead of some big long-term plan. And for me to lean into my feminine has been challenging. Yet, I don't know if it's like astrologically being supported right now. I feel like we are not the only two people who I've had this conversation with about that the masculine and the hustle, and it could be just what's happening right now in time is sort of falling away. And so many of us driven, smart, entrepreneurial women, and it doesn't make us any less of any of those qualities to lean into our feminine. It's where our strength really lies if we
Mm.
allow that slowness. Slowness does not mean we don't have to hustle to succeed.
Yeah. And to be completely honest, I've thought about this so many times, and I also think, well, I agree, right? When we're first starting out, you do. You have to kind of put the work in. You got to earn your stripes, as they say. You have to do the things to learn the things to figure out, right? Get the experience and all of that. And what if our young women were able to learn some of these lessons a little bit earlier so that as they're doing the things they need to do to get to where they need to be to level up, they're doing it in a different way than maybe we did, right?
Mm.
In a way that's more in your flow, that's more aligned, that feels more authentic. So that is definitely something that I talked to my daughter about, and that I would love to find. This is just kind of coming off the top of my head, but I'd love to find a way of being able to share those messages with those young women so that they don't have to wait until they're, you know, in that second part of their chapter to do it.
To figure it out.
To lean
And
in to lean
I
in.
know I look at both my girls all the time who are both in their early 20s and say,
Mhm.
they are so lucky that they have figured out so much more of who they are and what they want and what lights them up. And maybe they don't have the exact language of their why. Maybe they should all do a why discovery with Danette. But
Yeah.
the fact that they are more evolved, and maybe it partially is societal norms are shifting. Maybe it partially is women like us who are generous in our outspokenness and sharing
Yeah.
our failures and successes and lessons to inspire. But I know I have friends of every age, right? So I'm in my mid 50s. I have friends in their 20s and 30s. I have friends in their 70s. And it's it's lights me up again to keep using that term, but it is part of my whole everything when these younger women can have these types of conversations. It's just such a gift for them that they not that they're ahead, but that they already know. We all learn in our own time, and I think the sooner that you do know, quicker you can just lean into your own trajectory.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? It's not about being ahead, but they'll move forward with a flow and with a groundedness that often we don't necessarily get to enjoy until after we've earned our stripes. You know? Like, what if we could earn our stripes and
And and the whole it's okay to ask for help, right? It's
Mhm.
okay to not be okay, or it's okay to not have the answers, or it's okay
Yeah.
to
want to change or to say, this is who I was and what I thought I wanted to do and the gifts I thought I wanted to bring. And now I don't feel that way anymore. And now
Mhm,
I feel this way. And now I want to do this. And having it be okay. I think it's more and more acceptable to evolve professionally and personally, but professionally than it used to be. We
mhm,
used to say, oh, if I don't stay in this one role for this period of time to get this promotion, to go to this next place. And I think that's one of the things that I most adore about entrepreneurship. It's challenging and that we get to choose. We get to
mm.
choose.
Yeah, the agency in that is and, I mean, come on, we're seeing it in the younger generations right now. This is why leadership in businesses in corporate America. Not all of them, but there's I'm part of leadership development and I'm on a lot of these forums, and generational differences is something that is heavily studied. It's heavily talked about. And the companies that are really listening and they are actually putting putting policies and putting best practices into place that will help these younger generations have the internal mobility and to learn different things when they can, they're retaining that talent, right? When they're giving them purposeful work and they're actually telling them why what they're doing is important, even if it's data entry, which, hey, AI eventually will handle that. And we still need to be humans in the loop. The businesses that are the leaders out there that are paying attention to this new generation's needs and not just writing them off as soft, they're going to be the ones that are going to have that top talent.
Agreed. Agreed. And now you have an HR background.
HR adjacent, it's learning
Okay.
and development. Yep. I started off in tech training in law firms. I did a lot of tech training and rollouts and tech support for a very long time, onboarding, all of that. And then when I got my hands on doing some of the soft skills, which are, of course, the hard skills, the power skills, communication, conflict management, relationship intelligence, emotional intelligence, I was like, oh, this is so much more fun. So
Oh,
I like to infuse technology still into all the work and the programs that I do as a tool, but I am focused on the people and yeah. So HR adjacent. HR my people, we connect, we partner, we help make the things come to life, but yeah.
so we are going to include all of this in the show notes, but just tell us really high level. You mentioned women in leadership, but tell us who are your favorite people to work with and who you're looking to call in right now that should reach out to you if they like what we talked about today.
Absolutely. So it's any woman in leadership, whatever that means, right? Because we're all leaders in our own space. But if you've ever felt like you were too much and not enough all at the same time, if you feel like you have to have some sort of split personality to be successful in your personal and professional life, I want to tell you that's not true, right? It's about integrating. If you are someone that is obsessed with self discovery and you love to do all the things, I'm your girl because I've got lots of tools to help you dig deep and learn new things. They're just data points. It's all about being able to validate those things, right? When somebody gives you a piece of information, you don't have to just take it, but you go, "Oh, yeah, some nuance in there, but that looks right," right? Get real crystal clear on what it is that your purpose is because maybe you are at a crossroads and you feel like, "I've got some choices to make, but I want to make sure they're aligned." That's what I want to help women be able to do. Again, stepping into their power, being very intentional with their presence. So maybe you're looking to elevate or you have already elevated and you want to make sure that you're able to stay grounded in front of all those powerful people that now you have to present to. I have tools to help you be able to do that without breaking a sweat, right? And then again, the whole alignment with the purpose, like find your North Star and be able to use it as a decision making tool. Anyone that is looking to have those type of tools in their toolbox, I'm your girl.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for your willingness to share and your friendship. It is wonderful to have this conversation.
Thank you for having me on here. I'm so excited for you. I remember hearing about this Deer in the Y Discovery and this whole concept. So when you told me about this podcast and the name of it, I was like, beautiful. Congrats.
This has been a Category of One podcast. If this resonated with you, please share, subscribe, or leave a review. I appreciate you.